Grandma, go down on your knees. Margaret Thompson is pushed up against the police cruiser by Officer Daniels. Her face is flooded with blood. Outside First National Bank, 72 years of dignity crumble in front of the people. Daniels grabs her purse and hurls everything upon the hood. ID card, phone, wallet, and keys all fall to the ground. Officer Miller grinds his heel and steps on her license. There are millions in this account. It cannot possibly belong to someone like you. Margaret's voice is unwavering. I have been a banker here since before you were even born. Miller tosses her ID into the gutter. Do you have a valid ID, or should we go downtown? Margaret grabs her phone. Daniels removes her hand with a slap. Freeze, I said. Something other than rage burns in her eyes. Computation, power and patience. They have no idea who is anticipating Margaret's emergency call. Margaret parks her small vehicle in the lot of the bank. She looks in the mirror to see how she looks. An ironed blouse, pinned hair, and pearl earrings. She will take out money today to pay for her grandson's college education. Customers at First National Bank receive timely assistance. However, Teller Brian looks at Margaret dismissively when she walks up to the counter. How may I assist you? He doesn't sound as friendly as he used to. I want to take $15,000 out of my account. Margaret crosses the counter with her bank card and ID. Brian furrows his brows. He looks intently at her ID and repeatedly compares it to her face. This is a substantial amount. Do you know what you're requesting? This account has belonged to Margaret for decades. I am aware of banking transactions, yes. Sandra, his manager, comes over with crossed arms and whispers to Brian. It appears that there is an issue with your request. Margaret straightens her posture. What issue? We must further confirm your identity. People like you are protected by these fraud protection methods. Margaret observes at the next window. Sandra makes a similar withdrawal without checking the younger white customer's ID. Margaret asks, people like me. Sandra doesn't answer the query. Here, wait. She vanishes into a rear office. Margaret's bank card and ID. Margaret can see Sandra conversing with security personnel who keep glancing at her through the window. With his gaze fixed on Margaret, one guard calls. A police vehicle pulls up outside. Margaret tightens her grip on her purse. Inside is a unique phone with a single emergency button that her son gave her as a retirement gift. She had no idea that banking would turn into a crisis. Margaret is not the $1.2 million account holder, as the approaching officers have already determined what kind of woman she is. Miller and Daniels, the officers, enter the bank. Sandra points them in Margaret's direction right away. The bank stops talking. Other patrons gaze. Ma'am, step outside with us. Officer Daniels points to the door. Margaret doesn't waver. I've done nothing improper. I'm a client taking out personal funds. Miller moves in closer. We can either go the simple route or cause a commotion. Your decision. Margaret strolls outdoors with poise. Despite her racing heart, she maintained a straight back. Their tone shifts in the parking lot when they are not in front of witnesses. Elderly accounts have been the subject of multiple scam instances. Daniels takes a position to obstruct Margaret's return route to the bank. I'm only taking out cash for my grandson's tuition. Margaret retrieves her backup ID from her purse. Miller interprets the movement incorrectly. He reaches for his weapon. Keep your hands visible to us. Margaret becomes motionless. I'm obtaining my passport. Slowly. Daniels keeps an eye on everything she does. She presents a legitimate passport. Miller hardly looks at it. This might also be a hoax. These con artists now have high-quality forgeries. Margaret becomes increasingly irritated. Give my kid a call. He will confirm my identity. Daniels chuckles. Everybody has a son who will make things right. Customers push on windows inside the bank. Nobody steps in. With her arms folded, Sandra observes, feeling justified. Margaret sees that Brian is silent but appears uneasy. Margaret informs the police, I've been a banker here since before you were born. This account was started in 1980 by my late husband and me. You drive a Mercedes too, Miller responds. Margaret recalls last Christmas's admonition from her son. "Sometimes, Mom, people won't recognize your value until you demonstrate your strength." Back then, she hadn't comprehended. Now she does. Margaret's fingers are cautiously pushing the emergency button on her phone, but the officers are unaware of this while they radio for backup. A small group of people congregates far away, and the situation gets more intense. Margaret's purse is demanded by Officer Daniels. False identity documents must be examined. Margaret refuses to back down. "You are not allowed to search my possessions without a valid reason." Miller murmurs, "Obstruction." That's sufficient justification. Even so, they steal her purse. Daniels spills the contents onto the hood of the patrol car. Scattered over the heated metal surface are her wallet, Kleenex, lipstick, reading glasses, phone, and a small framed picture of her family. The picture slides towards the edge, and Margaret reaches for it. Miller stops her. "Avoid touching anything." Glass breaks on the pavement as the frame collapses. From the fractured frame, Margaret's son's face beams. "My family is like that." Her voice is shaky. These days, ID fraud is a family business. Daniels rummages through her wallet, taking out cards and scrutinizing each one intensely. Margaret sees that her hand is trembling. She hides her humiliation by clasping them together. According to Miller, Social Security cards no longer have this appearance. Margaret's card, however, is quite genuine. In 1968, that card was issued. She becomes impatient. Handy justification. Miller puts everything she has, including her phone, in an evidence bag. Margaret feels her stomach tighten. The emergency call had been connected. Everything would have been heard by her son. A third policeman shows up. Johnson scans the scene right away, respecting his colleague's judgment without challenging it. "Ma'am, you are being questioned about identity fraud." Margaret straightens her back. "I would like to talk to my lawyer." The officers look at each other with amusement. "An attorney is on retainer for you." Daniels laughs. "Yes, I do." Margaret's voice becomes more powerful. Additionally, he is an expert in his field. Officer Johnson takes a menacing step closer. "You'll accompany us until then." Margaret senses the stares of spectators. Some people use their phones to record. Nobody steps in. Sandra comes out of the bank with documents. Unusual activity is visible on her account. Washington makes large quarterly deposits. Also deception by the government. Miller furrows his brows. Federal territory is that. Margaret nearly chuckles. If only they were aware of where those deposits came from. Margaret talks plainly as they get ready to shackle her. "I advise you to verify my other identification before proceeding." "What other ID?" "We've seen your phony passport and driver's license." Margaret is tall. "The one my son demands I keep in my wallet's secret section." Officer Daniels's face turns pale as he scans the emergency contact details on the unique family ID provided by the government, reluctantly checking. Daniels looks at the ID card, suddenly uncertain, and the mood changes. Miller's arrogant attitude falters when he displays it to him. Attorney General Elijah Thompson is wrapping up a meeting in Washington, D.C., when his security detail interrupts. "Your mother's panic button has sent you an emergency call, sir." As Elijah hears the audio message, his visage hardens. The sound of his mother's possessions strewn across a car hood, the dismissive tones of the cop, and her voice. Everything is audible to him. "Get me that jurisdiction's police chief right away." He still speaks in a cool, measured tone. "And get my plane ready." Margaret observes the officer's altered demeanor when she returns to the bank. This indicates that your emergency contact is Miller. Stops talking. "Elijah Thompson, my son." Margaret has a gentle firmness in her voice. Johnson gives a head shake. "That isn't possible." The general attorney. "The same." Margaret looks him in the eye. "Family is the most important thing to my son." Daniels moves away to make a call while fumbling with his radio. He adopts a defensive stance instead of an authoritative one. Margaret evaluates the damage while they are distracted. Her possessions are still strewn about. Her dignity was called into question. Her community did not defend her. She silently swears. No one else at this bank will receive this treatment. Sandra watches inside with increasing anxiety. Beside her, the manager shows up and asks why the police are there. The teller, Brian, cautiously walks up to them. Check out her account details. She has been a client for many years. Holder of a premium account. The manager's expression goes white. Why wasn't I told right away? Brian takes a deep breath. According to Sandra, she fit a scam profile. Which profile? The management makes requests. Sandra falters. She desired to take out a sizable amount. It seemed suspicious. Due to her advanced age. Black. The manager speaks up. Outside, Daniels comes back. His manner entirely changed. It appears that there was a miscommunication, Mrs. Thompson. Margaret remains silent. Explanations are no longer necessary. This ID will need to be verified. Naturally, Miller adds feebly. You will, of course. Margaret has a cold voice. While you're at it, could you also explain why you didn't know who my son was before you saw my legitimate identification? Johnson starts collecting her possessions and treating them more carefully. Daniel's radio is crackling. There's an anxious tone to the speaker on the other end. That voice is familiar to Margaret. Even despite the static, Elijah's unique tone conveys command. As he listens, the officer's face loses color. Indeed, sir. I get it, sir. Immediately, sir. The lights in the patrol car went out. The bag of evidence opens. Margaret apologizes and gets her possessions back, but it's too late. The Attorney General's plane veers off course 30,000 feet above, headed for his mother and a confrontation that none of these police are ready for. In small villages, news spreads quickly. Local media vans show up outside the bank within an hour. Someone disclosed that a significant event is taking place. The manager fumbles inside the bank. Bring Mrs. Thompson into my office right now. Complete privacy. Sandra objects. She was attempting to take out a strange sum. She has more than $1 million in assets with us, making her a premium client. The manager gives a hiss. And Sandra falters, so you phoned the police. She didn't appear to be able to afford that kind of money. The manager looks on in shock. I'll take care of you later. Officers Daniels and Miller are outside receiving calls from their superior that are getting more and more anxious. Are you aware of the people you have detained? The radio is filled with the loud voice of the police chief. Our department received a call from the Attorney General himself. Margaret says, I prefer to stay where everyone can see what happens next, as she calmly sits on a bench and declines offers to wait inside. She is no longer being held by the officers, but they are still hesitant to leave the area. Daniels tentatively steps forward. We were merely carrying out our duties, Mrs. Thompson. Margaret sees right through him. It is your responsibility to serve and safeguard every citizen equally. Miller goes on the defense. Fraud was reported to us. Who is it from? Margaret poses a problem. I didn't look like I belonged, according to the bank teller. Neither of the officers responds. Additional patrol vehicles show up. The chief of police comes out, straightens his uniform, and walks over to Margaret. On behalf of our department, Mrs. Thompson, I apologize for this regrettable event. Margaret gives a cautious reaction. Unfortunate implies a mishap. This was intentional profiling. The chief's grin wavers. We'll do a thorough inquiry, I promise. Margaret responds, so will my son. Partial videos of the incident are circulating on social media. Comments pour in. Another instance of black people banking. And hold off till they discover her identity. The bank manager appears, his forehead thumping with perspiration. Come on in, Mrs. Thompson. Everything is ready for your withdrawal. The actual storm hasn't yet started when a sleek black government car and 3 more arrive in the parking lot as Margaret eventually makes her way into the bank. The bank entrance is surrounded by a perimeter of government cars. A corridor of authority is created by men and women wearing suits with earpieces. Margaret's withdrawal is manually counted out by the bank manager inside, her hands trembling. I want to reassure you, Mrs. Thompson, that First National cherishes each and every one of our clients. Our policies are not reflected in this instance. Margaret takes the money and gently puts it in her purse. However, it took place at your bank when you were in charge. Sandra is no longer on the ground. Margaret can see her furiously gesturing at HR staff through the office shutters. The teller, Brian, comes over warily. "I'm very sorry, Mrs. Thompson. I should have checked your account before contacting security." Margaret observes him. "Indeed, you ought to have." The manager speaks up. "We are ready to compensate you for your suffering. Your money is not what I want." Margaret cuts in. "Systemic transformation is what I want." Everyone's attention is drawn to a disturbance outside. As Attorney General Elijah Thompson walks in with his security detail and briefcase-carrying assistants, the bank goes silent. Elijah, who is 64, immediately takes charge of the space. His well-tailored attire and methodical motions convey authority that is exercised responsibly. The chief of police dashes forward. "We're taking care of it, Attorney General Thompson." "Are you?" Excuses are cut off by Elijah's voice. His mother continues to be his biggest concern. Concern seeping through his businesslike exterior, he walks over to Margaret. "Are you okay, Mom?" Margaret's poise falters for the first time. She gives him a hand pat. "Elijah, I'm all right, but maybe not everyone is." Elijah looks to his group. Everything: bank policy, police response, individual actions, and a thorough investigation. One of the assistants moves forward. "In the last year, we have already filed 7 similar complaints against this branch, sir." The manager goes pale. NDAs and settlements were used to address those. The assistant is done. "No more." Officers Daniels and Miller make an effort to disappear. Elijah observes. "My team will require your complete statements and badge numbers, officers." Outside, the local news crews grow in number. The story has been picked up by national outlets. The mother of the Attorney General was profiled at the bank. For the first time today, Elijah whispers anything to his mother as he leads her out the door. It has to do with giving a masterclass on consequences. The regional director of the bank comes panting after exceeding speed limits on the way. He discovers that the lobby has been converted into a makeshift command center. Workstations are set up by Department of Justice employees. Authorities examine security footage and conduct staff interviews. The computer systems of the bank are audited. Elijah is sought after by the regional director. "Thompson, Attorney General. We can certainly do this in private." Elijah glances up from his paperwork study. Similar to how the earlier events were handled with payoffs and quiet. Margaret observes from an adjacent seat. She sees Sandra being led to a private room where she would be questioned. Her former self-assurance has disappeared. People from the community congregate outside. The fate of Miss Margaret, a cherished former schoolteacher who instructed generations of local kids, has become well known. Handmade signs are brought in by former students. Justice for Miss Margaret and an immediate end to prejudice in banking. The chief of police makes an effort to control the media. This was a singular occurrence. Community voices interrupt him, yelling about their own incidents. "My granddad was treated in the same way. Despite having impeccable credit, I was turned down 6 times on my own." Margaret observes from the glass as her own humiliation grows into something more significant. She is no longer the only focus of this. Elijah goes up to his mom. Representatives from the Federal Banking Commission are traveling. The practices of this branch should be thoroughly examined. Margaret gives a nod. "How about the officers?" "Administrative leave until an inquiry is conducted." Elijah's face grows serious. "During your interaction, their body cams conveniently malfunction." "It's really convenient." Margaret straightens her necklace made of pearls. "What comes next?" "The next step is justice." Elijah looks at his timepiece. In 20 minutes, the CEO of the bank will arrive. The Commissioner of Police in 30. Overhearing is the regional director. There's panic. Today, the CEO will be visiting. People usually clear their schedules when the mother of the Attorney General is humiliated and profiled. There is no place for debate in Elijah's tone. Margaret straightens her skirt as she stands. "Before I meet with the CEO, I should get dressed." The bank staff silently observes her as she goes to the toilet. The woman they fired a few hours ago is now more respected than their top executives. Margaret eventually gives herself a moment of emotion in the solitude of the restroom. Not because of her personal experience, but rather because it made clear how many others suffered in the absence of a powerful son. As Harrison Edwards, the CEO of First National Banking Corporation, enters the bank, the mood is tense. His well-tailored suit and self-assured manner give the impression that he is used to dominating rooms rather than being subservient to them. He is followed by Police Commissioner Davis, whose nervous expression contrasts with his militaristic stance. They discover Attorney General Thompson and his colleagues going over the evidence. The effectiveness of the Justice Department has already produced a devastating report. Edwards, Attorney General, holds out his hand. Elijah interrupts, refusing to accept the extended hand, indicating that this regrettable event was neither isolated nor unlucky. In only the last year, my team has found 27 comparable incidences at your branches around the country. Edwards stumbles. I had no idea. That's the issue. Elijah points to the pile of grievances. These were quietly settled by your bank. No accountability, no policy adjustments. Margaret reappears calm and majestic. Edwards comes over to her right away. I really apologize for what happened to you today, Mrs. Thompson. Margaret observes him. Mr. Edwards, do you know why I was taking money out? The CEO is hesitant. I understand it was for your grandson's tuition. Somewhat accurate. Margaret pulls out a classy business card from her purse. A scholarship fund for disadvantaged students is being established by the Thompson Family Foundation. The first installment was withdrawn today. Edwards looks at the card. Acknowledgement is emerging. The Thompson Foundation is a significant charity with more than $50 million in assets. Margaret Thompson, are you that person? His disbelief is scarcely contained in his voice. The exact same. Margaret doesn't smile all the way to her eyes. Prior to my retirement, I served as Westland Industries' Chief Financial Officer. The room reverberates with the revelation. The mother of the Attorney General is not the only elderly woman they profiled. She's a financial powerhouse in her own right. In 1968, I began working as a bank teller. Margaret goes on, after my husband passed away, I raised Elijah by myself while working my way through night school. Became the first female black CFO in the history of our state. Davis, the commissioner, clears his throat. If our police had known, Mrs. Thompson, that would be the exact issue. Margaret interrupts him. Respect shouldn't be based on connections or status. Elijah advances. My mom is a member of the Federal Reserve Advisory Council. Mr. Edwards, she contributed to the drafting of the banking rules you follow. The CEO pales visibly. Elijah goes on to say that because of presumptions about her age and race, she was treated like a criminal in your establishment. Margaret speaks to the group. I could have shown my qualifications right away. I decided not to. Why? From the periphery of the crowd, Sandra inquires. Because everyone should be treated with fundamental dignity regardless of their big titles. There are decades of wisdom in Margaret's voice. Highlighted the way regular people are treated today. The Assistant Attorney General comes up holding a tablet. We have put together the preliminary report, sir. Systematic discrimination patterns are evident. Edwards makes an effort to take charge again. This goes beyond any necessary policy changes. Elijah's tone is definitive. A formal inquiry into First National Bank's discriminatory practices is being launched by the Department of Justice. The CEO tenses up. For what reasons? Infraction of the Fair Housing Act, the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, and possibly the Civil Rights Act. Before discussing the police misbehavior, Elijah carefully lays out each complaint. Commissioner Davis speaks up. The officers were responding to a reported fraud with excessive force and clear bias. Elijah concludes that only during this interaction did their body cams strangely malfunction. The gathering has increased outside. People in the community tell tales of similar treatment. Live broadcasts are produced by news teams. Margaret keeps an eye on everything. The impact was calculated in her banker's head. Mr. Edwards, your stock will fall 15 points by morning. The CEO is aware of her correctness. Margaret turns to the gathered bank executives with one last disclosure as she gets ready to go with her son. I've been on your bank's board of directors selection committee for 10 years, and next month is your term review. After a week, the repercussions happen as precisely as dominoes. The stock of First National Bank falls 18%. Even worse than Margaret had anticipated. Answers are demanded by shareholders. An emergency meeting is called by the board. Elijah conducts a briefing on the expanding probe at the Justice Department headquarters. Since the story surfaced, we have received more than 200 fresh complaints. He points to the map that depicts the national pattern and practice of discrimination, especially against older minorities, in the impacted branches. Internal bank memos encouraging examination of anomalous withdrawals with coded language about non-typical account holders are presented by his team as proof. Margaret, in the meantime, invites local authorities to her humble house. The living room transforms into a command center for systemic change. Margaret informs them that punishing individuals is insufficient. The way financial institutions function needs to be altered. Officers Daniels and Miller will have separate disciplinary hearings across town. Previous instances' body camera evidence shows a pattern of selective enforcement. We were following training protocols for fraud prevention, Daniels contends. Yet white customers making identical transactions faced no such scrutiny, the head of the review board replies. CEO Edwards encounters the wrath of the board at First National's headquarters. We have lost millions as a result of this PR disaster. A board member becomes irate. There is a prospect of devastation from major institutional investors. Edwards stands up for himself. How could I be aware of every event at every branch? You are literally responsible for that. A different member of the board counters. Furthermore, Mrs. Thompson is not your typical person. She actually contributed to the creation of banking rules. Under security surveillance, Sandra, the bank manager who started the incident, clears her desk. Discriminatory acts and violations of customer dignity procedures are mentioned in her termination letter. The teller, Brian, gets different information. He receives whistleblower protection and is transferred to corporate compliance as a result of his truthful evidence regarding systematic bias. With the exception of one with a local high school journalism student whose grandmother experienced comparable discrimination, Margaret declines all media interviews. This isn't about revenge, Margaret clarifies. It's about reform. 3 additional national banks with comparable complaint patterns are included in the Justice Department's inquiry. Due of a personal link, Elijah declines to be directly involved, but his senior deputies continue. Emergency audits of complaint files and dispute settlements throughout the financial industry are announced by banking regulators. First National promises a $50 million commitment to underprivileged neighborhoods, a comprehensive plan, implicit bias training, an overhaul of transaction reviews, and community accountability committees. Too little, too late. There are class action lawsuits. The legal team for the bank issues a warning about possible 9-figure payments. Commissioner Davis establishes new procedures for handling financial institutions at police headquarters. It becomes important to verify before taking any action. Margaret advocates for industry-wide change through her role on financial boards. Her suggestions include financial literacy initiatives in marginalized populations, blind transaction reviews, and customer advocate offices with actual authority. The Thompson Family Foundation has announced a new program that will provide legal assistance to victims of financial discrimination across the country. Margaret discusses the investigation status with Elijah in private. Elijah clarifies that the systemic problems go deeper than we initially believed. When minority account holders had certain withdrawal patterns, their algorithms marked such accounts as high risk. Nevertheless, white consumers with similar patterns were not warned. Margaret gives a nod. Technology is infused with the same prejudices as its designers. Just that. Additionally, we discovered email threads in which executives specifically discussed different issues in order to evade regulatory investigation. Margaret takes a drink of her tea. Any opposition from other banks at first until we presented the information to them. They are now scrambling to put voluntary reforms into place before we force them. The consequences go beyond the banking industry. All around the country, police agencies examine how they respond to business calls. Case studies on unconscious bias in business environments are becoming part of training curricula. Sandra finds it difficult to get a new job. When the hiring manager recognizes her name from news reports, her interview at a lesser bank ends abruptly. Formal reprimands are recorded in the personnel files of officers Daniels and Miller. In order to protect their jobs and guarantee that they would never rise above their existing positions, their union representation fights against termination. There is a shareholder uprising against Edwards. He gets a call at home from the board chair. Your resignation is required by morning. You cannot start damage control while you are still in charge. Courses on business ethics now require students to read the Thompson case. A case study is created by Harvard Business School. The real cost of prejudice is the intersection between bigotry and banking. Invitations to speak at corporate training sessions, civil rights events, and financial conferences keep ringing Margaret's phone. She is careful in her acceptance, concentrating on forums where policy changes take place. Elijah's political capital increases. His dedication to fair justice despite of personal ties is demonstrated by his moral treatment of his mother's case. Competitors of First Nationals take advantage of this by establishing focused marketing campaigns that highlight their dedication to treating every customer with dignity. First National Surge Account Transactions. Brian gets promoted to the position of head of a brand new consumer advocacy division, where he will answer directly to the board instead of management. Anonymous transaction audits were his first attempt to eradicate prejudice. Trade journals in the financial sector discuss the Thompson effect. An editorial states, "The question isn't whether your institution has bias, it's whether you'll address it before your own Margaret Thompson walks through your door." Give it a shake. Bank executives nationwide find something concerning as they assess their susceptibility to similar scandals. Margaret Thompson serves on the advisory boards of the regulatory bodies that are in charge of each. A Senate Banking Committee hearing is held 60 days following the occurrence. As cameras transmit across the country, a sense of solemnity is created by marble columns and wood paneling. Nervous lawyers surround CEO Edwards at the witness table. Under the intense lights, droplets of sweat form on his forehead. The interrogation is led by Senator Claudia Morales. "Mr. Edwards, internal records from your bank reveal that minority clients are routinely singled out for closer examination. Was this a formal policy?" Edwards straightens his necktie. "Not at all. These were individual instances of staff members misinterpreting policies on fraud prevention." "It's interesting." The senator displays a document. "Your executive team's document discusses the role of demographic risk variables in transaction approval. Please provide an explanation." Edwards struggles through excuses full of jargon. The committee is still not impressed. Margaret sits calmly in the crowd, observing the man who used to be in charge of the banking industry reduced to defensive babbling. During a recess, Edwards approaches her cautiously. "We can find a solution, Mrs. Thompson, without demolishing a facility that provides services to millions of people." Margaret gives a cautious reaction. "Mr. Edwards, discriminatory institutions don't really assist anyone." Testimony from past clients is heard as the hearing continues. Without Margaret's resources or connections, their accounts build a devastating pattern that is exactly like Margaret's. In front of the Civil Rights Commission, Commissioner Davis must face his own consequences. A department-wide pattern of disparate response standards depending on caller demographics is revealed by body camera assessments. According to the committee chair, officers responded to reports from wealthy areas with complete tactical squads. Davis offers his resignation with immediate effect, while comparable pleas from minority neighborhoods receive little or no response. Edwards tries to minimize the damage at the Senate hearing. "We've put extensive adjustments into place." Senator Morales gets caught and interrupts. "Prior to Mrs. Thompson's event, your bank received hundreds of complaints. Her son's position was the only distinction." Edwards is unable to respond. The committee makes its conclusions public. Mandated compliance audits, sanctions against First National Bank, and referrals to the Justice Department for possible criminal prosecution of those officials who suppressed complaints. The First National's board votes unanimously that night. Edwards is fired with immediate effect. Because of leadership shortcomings that lead to regulatory action, his golden parachute shrinks when clawback provisions kick in. The verdicts are given to officers Daniels and Miller. Termination, loss of eligibility for a pension, and permanent recording in law enforcement databases that prohibits future employment as a police officer. The bank manager, Sandra, is unable to find work in the financial services industry. In banking ethics classes, her name is used as a case study. Federal proceedings are pending against the regional director of the bank for allegedly destroying records of prior discrimination complaints. While celebrating these personal outcomes, community activists concentrate on Margaret's larger goal of systemic change. The conclusion of the tale is covered by national news. The swift fall of banking titan Harrison Edwards sends a clear message to corporate America, a well-known anchor concluded. In addition to being immoral, discrimination has disastrous financial effects. Margaret stays at home and watches the coverage. Her understanding that most victims lack her advantages tempered her delight. He dials, "The President is considering an executive order on financial inclusion based on our recommendations." "Good," says Margaret. "But legislation would be better. As regimes change, so do executive orders." "Already working on it," Elijah tells her. Currently, Senator Morales is working on a bill. Unaware that Margaret has already given the Justice Department insider information on discriminatory activities at 3 more large banks, financial institutions race to avoid being the next target as the old guard crumbles. The financial scene has changed significantly in a year. Beyond personal sanctions, Margaret's experience has spurred change. With bipartisan support, the Banking Equality Act is passed, setting new guidelines for financial organizations. Procedures for anonymous transaction review that eliminate demographic indicators. All service refusals and their explanations must be reported. In every branch, there are customer advocates with actual authority. Bias audits are conducted every quarter and the results are made public. Under new management, First National Bank becomes a model for the sector. Through their community banking strategy, branches are opened in areas that were previously underserved. Hiring procedures give preference to employees who reflect the demographics of the community. Margaret is the chair of the Federal Financial Inclusion Commission, a recently established oversight agency. She is particularly suited due to her personal experience and decades of financial competence. Law enforcement changes in a similar way. Regardless of the neighborhood or caller demographics, new training procedures emphasize equitable responding. Officers now automatically turn on their body cameras when they respond to financial institutions. The Thompson Foundation creates a banking rights hotline that offers prompt legal support to individuals who are subjected to discrimination. As reforms take effect, the number of such cases declines monthly. Daniels, a former officer who is currently employed as a security guard at a mall, watches television reports about the developments. From being defensive to reluctantly comprehending, his viewpoint has changed. The teller who raised his voice, Brian, is now in charge of First National's Compliance Division. His team looks for signs of bias in transaction patterns and fixes issues before they become incidents. Financial literacy initiatives are thriving in community centers across the country. Every month, Margaret personally instructs elders in the use of contemporary banking. A veteran civil rights lawyer who succeeded Police Commissioner Davis establishes community oversight boards with real disciplinary power. Inspired by Margaret's case, the Justice Department's Banking Discrimination Task Force has recovered more than $500 million for victims of institutionalized discrimination in the financial industry. Edwards, the former CEO, makes charitable contributions in an effort to improve his reputation. His requests to join company boards are routinely turned down. Sandra keeps a close eye on customers as they meticulously count their money while working at a tiny retail establishment. Faces from her banking days are familiar to her. People who used to ignore her now stay away from her register. Margaret gets a standing ovation when she introduces the new inclusive banking standards at the annual Banking Sector Conference. Reluctantly, some executives applaud, knowing that resistance would be revealing as well as futile. The luxury of dignity is not exclusive to the powerful. "It's a right belonging to everyone who walks through your doors," Margaret says to the crowd. Banking executives' data exposes an unexpected truth as they make the modifications required by the new legislation be why growing devoted clientele, inclusive banking techniques genuinely boost earnings. Margaret is seated in a different bank branch in the same town 2 years after the incident. The room has been remodeled to be pleasant, open, and private for all transactions. She is accompanied by her grandson, who is currently in his 2nd year of college. 15 students from underprivileged neighborhoods are supported by his scholarship fund, which was created through the Thompson Foundation. Margaret is greeted with sincere respect by the young teller. "Mrs. Thompson, good morning. How may I help you right now?" Margaret successfully completes her transaction. Professional service, no strange looks, No inquiries regarding her identity. She sees Police Johnson, the third police of the day, directing traffic outside. After completing the required retraining, he is currently the department's community liaison. When he sees Margaret, he properly nods. Without resentment, she reciprocates the gesture. Accountability has been attained. Grudges are useless. Community leaders convene for their monthly strategy meeting at her humble house. What started out as a reaction to a single incident has developed into continuous civic participation. In her living room, Margaret offers tea. Although the foundation is stronger, our job is not yet complete. It rings on her phone. Elijah is phoning from Washington. She switches him to speaker. Tomorrow, the National Financial Inclusion Act will be signed by the President. He declares, "Mom, your testimony was crucial." Margaret grinned. Everyone who spoke their story, not just me. Later, she goes to the main branch of First National Bank, which is now a community banking facility that offers small business assistance services and financial literacy training. She is given a tour by Brian, who has been elevated to Regional Director of Community Banking. Minority neighborhoods have seen a 340% increase in first-time business loan applications. Margaret looks over his tablet's new transaction protocols. Initial evaluations no longer include customer photographs. Only financial indicators are used to evaluate accounts. According to Brian, everyone can now use the system more effectively. Our shareholders are also pleased. The change is recognized with a plaque in the lobby. Respect and decency for each and every client. A tiny, Margaret Thompson-inspired inscription appears beneath it. She runs her fingertips over the words, recalling how the humiliation of that day has now been changed into a long-lasting transformation. The Thompson case is a required course for new recruits at the police academy. They study the effects of selective justice, equitable enforcement, and implicit bias. Sandra now works at the community center after losing her job in finance. Her job is to educate financial experts about how discrimination affects people. Her personal experience comes very handy. Her redemption was won with sincere regret and hard work. Margaret passes the location where she was once encircled by police on her way home. The remembrance is no longer painful. The sidewalk where her family photos shattered now features a small community garden. She arranges fresh flowers next to her late husband's picture at home. "James, we did an excellent job today." She starts working on her memoir, Banking on Dignity, on her laptop. How a single event altered a sector. For the rights, publishers engaged in intense competition. Inspired by First National success, another bank's community effort is featured in the evening news. Driven by both demonstrated profitability and moral obligation, the movement grows. Margaret's grandson has left a message on her phone. "My lecturer referenced your case study today, Grandma." Recalling something her mother told her decades ago, she smiles. True power isn't about making people fear you. It's about ensuring that systems function fairly for all. The lesson is timeless. Dignity cannot be compromised. If justice is delayed yet results in long-lasting change, it is not justice denied. And sometimes reform is a more effective response to prejudice than retaliation. As Margaret's story reaches millions through her memoir and news coverage, the impact spreads beyond banking and law enforcement into other industries. When comparable bias patterns are reported, healthcare practitioners examine their triage procedures. Blind shopper audits are used by retail chains to guarantee uniform treatment. Institutions of higher learning look for differences in demographics in their disciplinary records. Wearing the same pearl necklace she wore on that fatal day, Margaret appears on a national morning show with grace and dignity. "What would you tell someone facing discrimination without an attorney general for a son?" asks the host. Margaret grinned. "Keep a record of everything. Make contact with advocacy organizations. Recall that your value is independent of what other people think of you. And remember that for each Margaret Thompson who has connections, we are creating mechanisms to help those who do not." Her advice was disseminated through social media efforts. #Dignity for All and #banking while black become rallying points for continued vigilance and reform. The event took place at a former bank building that has been transformed into a community financial center. Its new mission statement was clearly visible. Everyone has the right to financial dignity. While working as a mall security guard, Officer Daniels witnesses a minor being falsely accused of shoplifting. He intervenes in a different way than he would have in the past because of his new viewpoint. Little adjustments have a cascading effect. Margaret creates a scholarship program for law enforcement ethics that is open to children of police officers who show a dedication to fair justice. The Thompson Foundation releases a mobile application that allows users to monitor and report instances of discrimination, generating data trends that spur additional reforms. First National Bank defies detractors who said inclusive methods would negatively impact profits by being the most profitable in its class. Similar models are being quickly adopted by other organizations. Elijah is still working as Attorney General, but his mother's ordeal has permanently changed his outlook. The subtle sign of personal understanding is present in policy modifications. Margaret's experience is used as a case study in law enforcement agencies and business colleges across the country. Students discuss the moral ramifications and structural adjustments necessary for real equality. People tell their personal tales of confronting prejudice during neighborhood gatherings. As the discourse goes on, the movement is strengthened by each voice. Did you feel moved by Margaret's journey? This is but one of many tales of strength, dignity, and metamorphosis. Every week, we share real-life stories of regular individuals confronting injustice and bringing about long-lasting change. Stories that provoke thought, emotion, and, above all, action. If you think everyone should be treated with decency, click the like button. Get more compelling stories that demonstrate how one person can fix flawed systems by subscribing to Beat Stories. To ensure you never miss our Thursday releases, enable alerts. Share your personal experience of confronting prejudice or discrimination in the comments section below. Here, your voice counts. You've seen the narrative. What are you going to do with it now? At Beat Stories, we think that while introspection is valuable, action is preferable. Since awareness is just the first step, subscribe, share, and talk.